Last year I spent more than 100 days solo backpacking Costa Rica. I went there in February and I was gonna travel while doing workaways, but the pandemic had other plans for me. I found myself in another continent with very little money and no workaway, so I had to step out of my comfort zone and I learned a lot along the way. Hi, it's Anna, and this is the video on what I learned while traveling Costa Rica.
Hay un nuevo coronavirus.
The first thing I learned was to say no. I learned this when I was at my first workaway. I had different jobs. I was either a receptionist, cooking assistant, or photographer/videographer. Once I was asked to do something and I said yes by impulse. I didn't really feel like doing it and I was not working, but I just said yes because I have this tendency to say yes. At that moment, Tohin noticed and she came to talk to me. Then Leo came too and we all had a conversation together. Ohin and Leo are two inspiring humans I met at the retreat center I was working at. By talking to them, I realized that I had a tendency to say yes to a lot of things, and they listened to me and they told me that it's okay to say no and you should say no to respect your own boundaries. I don't know if they remember that conversation, but I certainly do, so thank you so much, Leo and Ohin. They are actually great healers and therapists, so I'll leave their Instagram down below in case you want to check them out. I gotta say, after the conversation, I find myself saying no more often and not feeling guilty about it. Another thing I noticed is that there's good people everywhere. This is a lesson I learned all along my trip, but I started noticing this when I started hitchhiking. When I was sick at my thumb, the third, if not the first car would stop and give me a ride. I once left my wallet in someone's car, there's that video up here, but I had to figure out how to get somewhere, eat, and get my phone fixed all for free. I got all those things and I got someone who kindly gave me a ride, and then he bought me water and something else to drink. He also wanted to buy me something to eat, but I had already picked up some mangoes off a tree, so I said no thank you. Oh, and I got my wallet returned soon after I had lost it, so good people everywhere. But when it hit me even harder was when COVID-19 got to Costa Rica. I had nowhere to go, and Karen and her family kindly offered me to stay with them for the rest of my trip, even though they hadn't even known me for a month, and they treated me like I was part of their family. That's way beyond being nice. I'm so grateful I met them. Number 3 goes hand in hand with number 2. I learned to ask for help and to accept help. I've always been very independent and thought I could do things by myself, but sometimes I do need help and I've always found it hard to accept. On this trip I learned to get rid of part of my ego and to accept help, which I'm now pretty good at. I'm still working on that asking part though, I'll get there someday. Through asking a man for help at a bus station, I was able to use his phone to call Karen to get me out of a really stinky situation after my second workaway, which I'll now tell you about. Another thing I learned is to trust my intuition. When COVID-19 got to Costa Rica, I was left with no workaway and I had to look for another one. There was only one workaway that was willing to accept me in those times, so as soon as I got accepted, I went to that workaway. When I arrived, I saw that I was the only volunteer and I was alone in the house with the man who was running it. To make a long story short, he managed to scare me away in less than 24 hours. He was constantly making sex jokes. He liked 36 of my Instagram photos while I was asleep that night, and then the next day he got fully naked in front of me without my permission. I had had a bad feeling about him before this had happened, but I had just told myself to give him a chance because I was like, you know, you gotta give him a chance because you haven't had enough time to get to know him. But when he stripped down in front of me without my permission, I knew that I should have listened to my intuition. I need to leave this place. I'm not good here. So as soon as that happened, I packed my stuff, I asked some locals for help, and I left on a bus. And that's when I used that man's phone to call Karen, and she came and picked me up at the bus station like I was her sister. Like, it's so weird because she hadn't even known me for a month, but she came and picked me up like I was part of the family. Oh, what an angel. Moving on to number 5, I learned to be less of a planner and go more with the flow. I would say I was already spontaneous before going to Costa Rica, but when it came to spending money, I was very frugal because I was on a really tight budget. That's why when I was in my first workaway and Zita told me to spend some days in Tamarindo, I initially said no. Then I remembered what Christian LeBlanc said in one of his videos. He said the best experiences do not come planned. So I thought about it for a while and I decided to leave my workaway to spend the weekend with her. Zita, you convinced me, and now we are in our hostel in Tamarindo. It was a great decision. Even though it was a touristy town, I loved the beach town vibe it had. We stayed at a hostel close to the beach, we went to the market, we had a sunset swim, we surfed. We had a good time, and that happened because I went against what I had planned and I spent the weekend with Zita. Finally, number 6 is something that took me a while to learn and I'm still learning it. That is to deal with uncertainty. You know, when you're solo traveling in another continent, a pandemic hits the world and you can't afford to buy a flight home, things get complicated. At first I didn't know what to do because when this happened, I was staying at Karen's and she had invited me to stay at her place for some days, but I was not finding any workaways. Then I found one, but I had to leave because it was that creepy man I told you about. However, when I came back to Karen's, she and her family told me that I could stay with them for the rest of my trip, which was such a relief. So now I had a place to stay and it was with her, who I really enjoyed spending time with. But then I was worried about something else. I was worried about running out of money to pay for food and gas, which my dad was helping me with, but I didn't want to be a weight or a burden on him, especially during this pandemic times. So my focus was on having a good time in Costa Rica, but also finding a way to get back home to get a job. So for the 2 months and a half that I had left on my trip, I was faced with this huge uncertainty of not knowing when I would get back to Catalonia and not knowing if I would run out of money. Luckily, through talking about it with Karen and doing some mental work, I was able to deal with it and enjoy Costa Rica. I mean, the fact that I was living with her so close to the jungle made it way easier. But yeah, I would say I did learn a lot on how to deal with uncertainty. That's it. These are the top 6 things I learned by traveling Costa Rica for more than 100 days. I obviously learned more, but I feel like these are the most important things I learned. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video and leave a comment down below telling me what you learned this 2020. I'm sure you have something to say because it's been a crazy year. I'll see you soon. Bye!